Okay, 2012 higher level question 7. We have an upper floor detail to draw in. So we'll read through the questions there first. The main entrance door to a 2-story dwelling house is a 4-panel solid wooden door. The external wall in which the floor is fitted is of timber frame construction with a rendered concrete block outer leaf. This wall supports the first floor joists and as shown in the accompanying outline drawing. To a scale of 1 to 5, draw a vertical section through a portion of the external wall, door frame, door and first floor joists. The section should show the typical construction details from 400mm below the top of the door to a level 500mm above the first floor joists. Include typical dimensions. Part B, show clearly on your drawing the position of the vapor control layer to ensure an airtight structure. Now this is one we're not as familiar with, but when it's understood it's quite easy and straightforward to do. What we have is the external wall of a house here. We have a top of a door, which we have to include, we've done several times, but the upper floor, the joists of the upper floor butt into the external wall there. So that's upstairs, that's downstairs, and we have to show the detailing of how that works, particularly when it is a timber frame building. Alright, so we'll just underline some of those key words. The main entrance door, so just so we know that, to a 2-story dwelling house is a 4-panel solid wooden door. So it's a solid wooden door, don't need to worry too much about that 4-panel. The external wall in which the door is fitted is of timber frame construction, so a concrete block outer leaf and a timber frame inner leaf with rendered concrete block outer leaf, as we've just said, rendered concrete block. The wall supports the first floor joist as shown in the accompanying sketch. So that's the first floor joists, that's the wall, and it's been supported here. We need to draw how it's done. To a scale of 1 to 5, draw a vertical section through a portion of the external wall, the door frame, the door, and the first floor joists. So the wall, the door frame, the floor, and the external, and the door and the first floor joists. The section should show the typical construction details from 400mm below here to a level 500mm above here and include typical dimensions. We can look at part B afterwards. Now, as I said before, not as familiar with it, definitely worth practicing. If you look at page 411 of your books, you've got 2 ways of doing this. And again, that's pretty much it. If you can draw that, it's quite easy. Alright, so I'm going to focus in on this one up here on the top. What we have is top of the door. There's a panel there. There's one of the panels. There's the top of the door. That's the door frame. We've got a lintel above that. As we know, timber frame lintels are pieces of wood going across. It doesn't say how big the timber frame panel is, so we're going to go with a standard timber frame panel of 150. External leaf. Your timber frame panel on top, and that is the flooring panel. Now when it comes to timber frame construction, floors are built in pre-made panels just like the walls, and they're delivered on the back of a truck as well, and they're lowered into place. If you have a look at these pictures here, that is what a flooring panel looks like. So you can see they have the first floor made with all the external walls. That's a flooring panel being lifted into place. There are some more flooring panels as well, and those flooring panels are lifted into place and they slot in there. So even though it says joists, essentially what it is a flooring panel. So what they would have done there is they would have built up this lower part of the wall here. They would have put the flooring panel into place there, and then the upper panel is built up on top of that, and then the external leaf is put into place. So we're going to work on that one there. Alright, so as usual with most of these drawings, you can draw them as if they're being built. So the best place to start is with the internal panel underneath. So maybe we'll outline the wall first of all. So it doesn't say how big the timber frame panel needs to be. There's a bottom left of the page, by the way. So we'll just go, the standard timber frame size is 150. So we will draw a timber frame panel. Scale 1 to 5, by the way. There's the panel, 150, lightly first. outside of the panel we have our plywood or OSB wood, and on lightly I'm going to draw the plasterboard on the inside of this timber frame panel. Again, we've no service cavity here either, and insulation is going to go in there. I'm actually going to stop there now because we're going to be cutting into that with our flooring panel shortly. I will draw the external leaf now as well, across 50mm for your cavity, across 100mm for your external leaf. And if you want to draw some blocks in there, by all means do. Okay, now we'll work on the door first of all. Let's go to pick a point to see is our bottom of our door. On the bottom of the concrete side we have a lintel, a concrete lintel there. Usually we go up 75 for those lintels. Might have to readjust that blockwork, but you can. Cavity closer going into place there. And the lintels with our timber frame construction, just getting a bit untidy. As we know, we've got 3 50mm joists fixed together as our lintel for a timber frame window or door. If that timber frame panel is 200 or 250, you just build up those 50mm joists, if you want to call them that. Okay. Now the door, it does not say in the question how big the door frame is. It says to include the door frame and include the top part of the door. So as usual, we will work with a 150 by 80mm door frame. So start at that point. Again, you can start kind of anywhere across there for your door frame. I'm going to start here, down 80mm, across 150mm. That's my door frame. If you want to put a little angle on your door frame there, you can. For the external door, we usually go around 60 or 70mm, so measure across that, go up about halfway there, and extend that down there. Now, you can rub out whatever's not needed, and that gives us the outline of our door frame. That door frame is fixed into place. It's specifically asked for, so you must make sure and draw that door frame, and the door gets drawn into here. Now, as we mentioned there, the door in the question says it's a 4-panel door. So that means it's a door like this. These types of external doors have 1, 2, 3, 4 panels on them. So and it's got like a top rail, a bottom rail, and 2 side rails and a middle rail. So when we're drawing it, the top part of a 4-panel door, we're going to draw it as if we're cutting through here. So we'll have the top rail and a bit of a panel in there. All right, these doors up here are more so like your kind of doors we've drawn in the past with the insulation inside them. So it's quite easy to do, just to make sure that you're aware of that like that. We'll draw a top rail in here. Again, you can judge the size yourself. Maybe make it about 150mm of a top rail, and then the panel slots in there and comes down like that. And to cover the 400mm that they're asked for, just make sure you extend it all the way down, and that's pretty much it for your 4-panel door. Again, we're more used to drawing just the kind of high performing doors with insulation inside them. I mean, to be honest, if you were just to draw a big rectangular door, you'll probably get all your marks, so you'd lose little or none. Very little if anything. If you want to put a little angle on that, you can. Depends on the manufacturer. Alright, now when it comes to drawing this floor panel into place, depending on how high up the floor is above the door, this timber frame panel could extend, but we'll just draw it for the sake of we'll draw it like it is in the book, and for the sake of space we'll just say, right, the floor panel is going in pretty much straight away above the door. And what you would draw is a top rail of the panel, alright, and also what will go on top as a head plate, so a head plate. So it's basically 2 more pieces of wood. Okay, now the floor panel is going to slot into here, so we're going to rub out a little bit of that. The floor panel, if we were to have the floor panel just resting in against this, it wouldn't be strong enough here to hold the floor panel. It wouldn't carry the weight. So the floor panel is actually going to be lifted in here, and it rests on top of that. It's fixed into place, and then above that they put down the next panel, the next wall panel. So the floor panel is going to be 225mm in height, and there'll be a joist on the end of the floor panel, 225mm high by 50mm wide, and basically all that happens is the floor panel extends out here and it extends out here. Okay, on top of the floor panel there would be some sort of decking, whether it's plywood or it could be tongue and groove flooring. Could be asked specifically, and underneath that you're going to have plasterboard on the ceiling. It could easily ask for insulated plasterboard. There's no mention in the question, so just a normal plasterboard unless it's asked for. There's joists that work their way across here, again usually 400mm centre, so if you measure across 400mm you might get another joist in if you want. Okay, and then it's just simply draw insulation in between these joists. From there, this timber frame panel that comes into this place, it needs to have a soa plate on the bottom, or a bottom rail. You can put the soa plate or the bottom rail, and insulation goes up there in the panel as always, and the question asks you to go 500mm higher up there. At that point it's just a matter of getting in your vapor membrane, goes all the way down the outside of the OSB wood. There is DPC. When it comes to a timber frame panel, your DPC is just fixed to that panel there. It comes across and it goes down here. You've got air tightness layer, or sometimes the older drawings is called a vapor control layer, but we call it air tightness layer nowadays. It goes up along there underneath that plasterboard, and at the joint you could use air tightness tape in that corner. Part B of that question mentions show the detailing of the vapor control layer or the air tightness layer to show how you keep it airtight. All you have to do is point out that that's the air tightness layer and there's air tightness tape in the corners of that. Now, we'll have a look at the full solution. Scale 1 is to 5, so it's a bit bigger. You can see there's your timber frame, there's your wooden 4-panel door. You have your lintels, your cavity closer. You've got the floor panel along here. I didn't even draw a second joist, you can leave it up if you want. The upper panel and all the detail work there. Part B, you can see there vapor control layer, green pen to ensure air tightness. In my sketch I use red pen. I've actually forgot to draw in the air tightness tape in those corners, which you can add to your part B as well. Alright, so that's what that full solution looks like. Have a go at that question there.